White House, a pretty boring place with President Trump. Really not much happening. It's just so humdrum. Or maybe not. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. All right, Secretary of State Marco Rubio slated to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tomorrow. This comes, of course, after Vice President J.D. Vance just met with Netanyahu yesterday. Vance said they have a tough task ahead. Really? I think he's right, which is to disarm Hamas. Good luck with that. And also to rebuild Gaza. Oh, good luck with that as well. Netanyahu also said that Israel is in charge of security and it will decide on those matters. For more, let's bring in the president of Iris Independent Research. That would be Dr. Rebecca Grant. Dr. Grant, thanks for being here. So, well, here's a not so easy question for you. How in the world would you go about making sure this peace plan takes hold? This is no easy task. Good morning to you.
All the tough questions first thing in the morning. I think the Trump administration is doing the right thing. They are keeping very close contact with Israel to make sure that this stays on track. The step we're waiting to see is the multinational force that can go into Gaza and stabilize and then begin to build up a Palestinian police force there in Gaza. And until that happens, we're all kind of on the edge of our chair waiting for something to go wrong. We also want to see the relief trucks going in there. But I think keeping very close contact with the region at this point, both publicly and behind the scenes, is the right strategy. And I think Trump will pull this off.
I'm glad you brought up that multinational police force. There's word that a number of the Muslim countries who are a part of this accord have already volunteered troops. Is that, to some degree, a potential danger for Israel, having more Muslim-aligned troops in Gaza that potentially could turn their backs on Israel and potentially launch an attack or help to build the Hamas stronghold there in Gaza? I'm sorry for being negative, Nancy, but I don't trust them.
It's a valid question. The troops I've heard would come potentially from Indonesia, also from Egypt and possibly Turkey. And the good news here is that all three of those were part of the meetings around the ceasefire agreement. They're part of upholding that 20-point plan. So the idea is that they really do not want this conflict in Gaza to start up again. So I think these nations providing peacekeepers would do so very professionally. And I believe we'll have some U.S. command and control based out of Israel to help just link and connect all those tactical forces together.
Okay.
Dr. Grant, we do want to talk to you about Russia as well. Russia said it held a major training exercise with nuclear weapons. This comes right after President Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin was put on hold. How concerning do you see this development?
Putin really likes to show off those nuclear weapons. In this case, it's mostly a routine exercise, and our U.S. military will have watched very closely to make sure it's kind of what they do every year. The concerning piece was some Russian bombers flying around in the Baltic. The NATO air policing with their F-35s and other fighters were up there monitoring the whole thing. But it is a show of force by Putin. I'm not too concerned at this point. Remember, he really dares not use nuclear weapons in Ukraine because the radiation pattern would blow back into Russia. So he's just posturing at this point.
That's a really good point. Speaking about Russia and Putin, these new sanctions on the two big oil companies there, I'm wondering what kind of impact you think that will have. I mean, India and China, if they continue to buy oil from Russia, I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have. So I'm curious about that as part one of the question. And then part two, and it's really more a statement, but I'm curious to get your take on it. The Donbas region. I mean, before the war, they had about a third of the Donbas region under sectarian or, the control there by Russian forces. And now it's at like 85, 90%. Take the W. I mean, Trump is just basically telling Putin, at least, take your 85% in the Donbas and go home. You had Crimea, which is 4.5% of Ukraine, and now you're at 11% of all of Ukraine. Take the victory, so to speak, and go home. He's not going to do it.
And Putin's not going to get any more on the ground because Ukraine is pretty much holding them on the ground and then getting the tremendous Patriots and other air defenses. The trouble, I think, is Putin still thinks he can get Donbas by pressuring Ukraine through the horrible drone and missile strikes. It's really thorny. And so, to your first question, it was high time to see those sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil. You're right, China buys half of Russia's oil. India buys a big chunk, and there's a little bit that still goes to Europe. But these are very important sanctions, and Treasury Secretary Bessent is also telegraphing that if they can sanction these two big companies, it's a financial sanction, he can do it to other Russian interests. So they've got to get after the Russian oil sales. There's got to be more legit military pressure on Putin as well to get him to the table.
So let's talk about some of that pressure. It could also come from China. President Trump indicating that he's going to speak with Chinese President Xi, and that he believes that President Xi also wants an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. What sort of influence could Xi have in this entire negotiation to potentially put some more pressure on Russia to end this war?
Exactly. Xi Jinping could do a lot if he wanted to. Don't ever forget, China's green light is what allowed all of this to happen. And there have been some domestic political rumblings, some generals fired in China that were friends of Xi's. So there's a lot going on. Most of all, Xi is concerned about U.S. sanctions and the impact on China's economy. So he could do quite a bit. Whether he will is very, very, very hard to say. We know Russia and China are tight allies, and it's a big danger that we all face. But that what formula it will take to get Putin to agree, just even to a ceasefire, is very hard to say. I think military pressure. I was glad to see Ukraine use Britain's Storm Shadow missiles in some attacks on Russian energy infrastructure recently. I think it's going to take Ukrainian missiles in the skies over Russia to really get to Putin.
Yeah, I agree. Dr. Rebecca Grant, great analysis this morning. Thanks so much for being here. And by the way, great Skype shot. We approve of that, just so you know, aesthetically. We like it.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoyed
Thanks,
it.
Dr. Grant.
All right, coming up, we have all seen the popularity of those GLP-1 drugs for weight loss, but can they also help people get better sleep? We'll find out about the new shocking details. Shocking, I say, just ahead on American Sunrise.